All right. Hello, hello, everyone. We are on to our second week of online learning. I'm doing it a little bit different now. I showed everything in Canvas for the first weeks to kind of help you move through what Canvas looks like and how we'll be doing it. Since I feel like we're probably a little bit acclimated to that, I'm going to move to more kind of lectures that focus more on samples, and I'm just kind of going through some of the main objectives of the particular day. So this lecture is specifically focused on Tuesday, March 31st. And the assignments that we'll be doing for this week. So one of the main assignments that you'll be doing that we'll be starting out with is idea mapping. So what I want you to do is you're going to take about 10 minutes, time yourself, and try to take at least 10 minutes to do this, to where you create an idea map that will help you kind of put everything out that you're going to possibly use in your paper. So you'll see in the image that I've provided here, this is a sample of the idea map that I created for the Homeless Alliance. Back when I was writing my paper initially. I'm glad I took a picture of it so I could use it here. But you'll notice in the center, I put the research question. So what you want to do with your idea map is draw your center circle there, just like I have. Write out your research question. I just put RQ because mine was so long that I couldn't fit it on the board there. And then you'll notice that I start just creating stems out of the center circle there, the research question, that will help me explore all the facets of it. So if you'll notice on mine, there's a lot going on there, but I have history as one of the stems, I have values, I have processes, I have impact, I have goals, and I have the social issue. So those are my main stems. And then from that, I ask my questions, okay, so what are they? So if we hop down to social issue, which is right below, I have poverty there, I have stigma, and then from poverty, I ask the question, what effect does that have? So I have something branching off of that. I have hunger, I have homelessness, I have joblessness, and so I just keep branching and branching with my ideas. So another one I have is impact up at the top right-hand corner off of my research question. So here, this is an important part of an organization, is the impact. So I think about, what do I mean by impact? I mean the impact it has on the members. I mean the impact that it has on the community. I mean the impact that it has on specific subsets of clients. And so I keep asking my questions, like, what does this mean? What does this tell me? Where else does this go, right? So this is one way to idea map. Think of 4 or 5 major pieces of the paper or segments that you might be connecting. Like I said, for mine, I have goals, social issue, impact, processes, values, and history. So I do all of those, and then I branch off as many kind of subsections as I can think. This can either end up being an outline or just giving you an idea of everything that you want to include. So be sure that as you work through your idea maps that you're really analyzing the sources, and you're really thinking about the values you see coming out of the various sources. We're going to start working on thesis statements later this week, so I want you to really push your questions and think about all the connections you're seeing amongst the different aspects or facets of the organization. So here's my sample research question that I used actually in the center of that idea map I just showed you, and then started kind of answering it in little pieces that were my main bubbles coming off of it. So what does the vast number of issues the Homeless Alliance takes up suggest about what kind of impact they want to make on both the homeless population and society in a broader sense? So that was my big research question, and I'm thinking about how if I really dig into these certain aspects, it's going to point me back to a value. So again, The center is where I kind of had my research question, and then I branched off and I thought about all the places I could go with this. You'll notice to the very sides, I also ask myself questions. So there's on the bottom right-hand corner of the board, there's a Q there. It says, how successful are the programs? Here's another question on the left-hand side. What values guide the origin of the organization that I connect back to history? So I ask myself big questions. Also, you'll see in the top right-hand corner, I have why written with a question mark. So I'm asking myself why. Why these programs? Why these processes? I'm constantly digging into the information that I already have, thinking about what kind of connections I'm going to make. So this is what I want you to do with the 10-minute idea map that you make. After you finish it, I want you to snap a picture of it and then just put that JPEG or the image, submit that to the discussion board. Or if you have some way that you can either, do this in Word that makes sense to you, if you have an iPad that you can kind of draw these things out and do it that way. I don't care how you do it, but I want to see an idea map that you've come up with in some way. It does not have to be as crazy or convoluted as mine is, but I like to show you how many places you can go. I literally did this idea map in the same 10 minutes that I gave my students to do it. So this is what I came up with in a sincere 10-minute span. So that is definitely possible. All right, and then again, be sure that you post your idea map to the Dropbox. It's the idea mapping Dropbox, and you will get a small homework grade for doing that. The second activity that you'll be doing this week is analyzing sources and searching for values. Now, this has 3 steps to it, so be sure that you do all 3 of the steps that are posted in the instruction Dropbox. So step 1 of this second activity is look across your research and write everything you know about the organization right now. There are no rules, no limitations, and you should not have a thesis yet. Just write to explore what research that you have so far. And this needs to be at least 300 words. So I've given you a list, and this is also within the Dropbox instructions that to help you kind of guide your writing. So you might write about the values you see in certain sources, the ideas and opinions you have about the events that your organization holds, the opinions you have about the social issue they take up, the thoughts you have on the way they communicate with the public. The thoughts you have about the way they engage the actual people that they help. The thoughts that you have on the size of the organization. Does the fact that it only has, a few board members as opposed to maybe other ones that have several tell you anything about the organizations and their values? The thoughts you have on the reason people get involved in the organization. So why do people join it? And then finally, the thoughts that you have on the impact the organization has on the community as a whole. So you do not have to explore every single one of these questions, but I give them to you so you have plenty of places to go as you are thinking through what you know about your organization right now through all the research that you've done. All right, so step 2 of activity 2 is you're going to write an analysis of the sources you have so far. So you should have 4 to 5 sources so far. We started the very beginning of the unit with just 2, right? Most people had a social media page and a website page. You're going to do an analysis of that. So in this analysis, what I want you to do is basically, give an explanation of what the source is, BBBS website, BBBS Twitter, whatever it is. Maybe throw in a link there if you can. And then explain how each text, the website, the video, the flyer, whatever it is, enacts, implies, or discusses the values of the group, particularly as they apply to the social or political issue that they're taking up. So this is all about looking at what are our sources telling us right now? How can we use them for the paper? So here's an example of a source analysis that I did when I was doing this with my class. So mine is Twitter. And so some notes that I took as I sat and did this with my class in class time last semester was I noted that it shows clients' faces to show the range of people that the Homeless Alliance helps. It has some tweets that include events going on with other organizations and a shared article. They shared an article about poverty and jail from the ACLU. So I thought about, what does that article say about who they are, what they care about, what their values are. I noted that they sent out a thank you to barbers that volunteered their time for their free barbershop. I noted that they emphasized togetherness in a lot of their tweets and community working together. And then I also noted that they showed a picture of their clients with their dogs on National Dog Day. So these are just things that I kind of noted, and I could think about what kind of connections could I make. So another thing that I did with all my sources is I made notes of what I saw. And then I asked the question, how might I use this source? So I thought back on the notes that I saw. And the notes that I have for myself on how I might use it is I can explain the events that they highlight and analyze why it is that they either do those events or highlight those events or what those events even tell me about their values. I can think about what the images, the actual pictures they posted say about their value and what they want to stress to the public. And then I can look into the whole barber thing to consider what the service in general says about the Homeless Alliance. One idea I had is I think that this is another way that they're helping clients to feel less singled out or stigmatized or marked as other, right? So you think about, not just that the image is there, but what does the image say about the possible, really nuanced value that really brings the whole organization together. So I want you to do that with every single one of your sources. Have notes about as long as mine for each of your source and post those as step 2 in this activity 2. Some questions that you can ask yourself as you're kind of doing your analysis is, what is the design of the source? What kind of images does it use? What kind of language does it use? What is the tone? How can I use it in my essay? And what other sources might I connect to this one? So this is really where you can start thinking about connecting or synthesizing your sources as well. All right, and then your final activity for March 31st is I want you to post at least 5 sources that you have for your essay right now. Be sure that the sources are a mix that include the text as you're analyzed. So I don't just want, 4 social media pages. I want websites, I want interviews, I want social media pages, I want videos, I want testimonies. I want, an analysis of the space itself, looking at Google Maps or the images, an analysis of the images posted, right? So I really want a mix of sources here to really get into depth and not just look at one single place to talk about the value of the organization. Also be sure that you're using at least 1, maybe 2 or 3 even sources that help you discuss the issue itself. So articles that actually use stats, data, research, etc., that talk about the issue itself. I talked about how with the Homeless Alliance, I used all sorts of stats from different places about homelessness in the U.S., about homelessness effect on different parties or groups of people, about the changing weather patterns and how that affects. So you can use a range of sources to talk about your issue. Be sure to include those secondary sources that help discuss the issue itself. Don't forget these. This is something that I notice a lot of students forget. So that will be the last thing that you'll do for Tuesday. By 11:59 p.m., be sure to just post either a link or upload the PDF, however you want to, just so I can see that you have a mix of sources going on. All right, and then a keyword search example. As you're looking, you can actually go to OU Libraries. That's where I found some of my articles. They have the OU Daily articles on there that could be helpful for local organizations and just articles from anywhere. So a sample that I used, I went into the OU Libraries and I did homelessness causes, Oklahoma City homelessness, and organizations helping homelessness. I never do all of these, right? So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That would be too many. It would probably narrow things down too much. But this is an example of some of the keywords that I use together to do a search within the OU Libraries database to really help me kind of find articles that I could use that talk about the Homeless Alliance itself, but just the homelessness as an issue in a larger sense. So that's an example of some of the ways that you can think about doing searches for the social issue to pull in those secondary sources, right? Sources that already have analysis or where the author is using other research and statistics to talk about an issue and make a claim. All right, so wrap up for this week. What I want you to keep in mind as you're continuing to kind of work towards thinking about bringing your sources together to write your essay is that a good essay should use unique sources that pick up on the nuance of the organization and its value. Bring in good secondary sources in a way that explains the social issue in depth, not just at a surface level. Use multiple sources in paragraphs to really build a complex and thorough definition of the value that is unique to the organization. You should analyze sources well. So don't just use them. Don't just throw them in there. Analyze them and explain how they connect or really demonstrate, show, or prove the value that you've picked out. And be able to tell the reader interesting stuff that draws them in. Tell me what I don't know. Don't tell me everything that I already know about Big Brothers Big Sisters or the Norman Food Pantry or CCFI. Show me that you've done your research and tell me interesting things. All right, folks, that is it for this lecture. If you have any questions at all, as always, just let me know. And be sure to come back Thursday to do all your Thursday exercise and watch the Thursday lecture.